welcome to Erndale's. So nice to have you join me today. I was just about to sit down and start my 10th block of my one-a-day wonky project, which is a wall hanging made out of wonky log cabin squares. And I thought maybe this would be a good opportunity to just take you along and show you how I go about constructing the block. This is a project that is inspired by K3N. I watch her all the time, and she had, well, I'll explain that in the video coming up. So I just want to say a very warm welcome to all my new subscribers. It's so nice to have some new people joining us. I hope you enjoyed this video. And for my returning subscribers, lovely to have you join me as well. You can, in the description below is all the contact information for me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and my email address there, as well as my mailing address as well. So if you want to contact me, you can email me or leave a comment below. I love to read your comments. It's really nice to connect with everybody. So why don't we go over there and do a little bit of stitching. Okay. So I thought I would just show you my last square that I did. This was block number 9, or was it number 10? No, it was number 9. And so these blocks are being constructed totally by hand. If you see on the back here, maybe you can't see, but it's all hand stitched down. There's light and dark split down the middle. I always start with a red center, and most, I think, log cabin blocks do, because that's supposed to be the heart of the cabin, I believe. And all the other fabrics in here are just tiny little scraps. I have a pile of dark scraps, and I have a little pile of light scraps. So I'm going to show you how I construct these. Some are folded in the traditional way that you would fold a patch on or a scrap on, and some are just attached raw edge. So I'll show you how I do that. So to start off with, I just start with a 6-inch square. This is an old piece of old bed sheet, and I want to find the center, so I'm just gonna score it down here just so I can find the center. And I don't even care if this is right in the center, because this is wonky. And this is my little centerpiece. It's about an inch. It's not exactly an inch. I just cut a whole bunch. Do the same thing to find the center, and then I'm just going to place the center of this in the center of that and put a pin. I don't care if it's straight, because this is wonky. This is not like, even I can just see when I put this down here that this is not a true square, but that's fine. I don't care. So now we're going to start building our 2 colors. So we'll do a light, a dark, and a dark, and we just keep going around and around and around. So I'm going to start off with light, and I have a bunch of little tiny pieces over here in my scraps. I just want to shake them up so I can see the little, and usually I have way too many scraps in front of me, but today I kind of toned myself down a little bit. So I'm going to use this little piece here. So I'm going to start by doing the first one in the traditional way that you would actually do it if you were doing it on the sewing machine, and that's to do it folded. So the other thing you need is, I've got 2 pins in there. The other thing you need is some thread. This is quilting thread. You don't have to use quilting thread. The only reason I'm using this is really old. This was my mom's, and I want to use it up, and it's good and strong, so it's good for the foundation piecing of this, I think. And you need a needle. That's not the one I like. That is. I don't know what size needle these are. I have a lot of needles, and I just use them. So I'm going to take off a nice long piece of quilting thread. And you need a pair of scissors. I'm going to tie a knot at the back. And Oops, I guess I better thread the needle. I thought I had. So this is not, these Wonky Log Cabin squares are not my idea. I got this from the inspiration of this from K3N. Okay, so I'm going to start stitching here in this corner, and I'm going to stitch all the way along here. I will cut this part off. Actually, why don't I do it this way? Let's do it this way. Makes more sense. Yes, I got this inspiration from K3N. I think I've mentioned it. If you've been watching my little shorts, I think I mentioned it in there. But she has done, she does a lot of these Wonky Log Cabin blocks. But she showed a picture of a wall hanging she did like this of her own. And I just love the look of it so much. It just looked so, I don't know. It just looks so warm and inviting somehow. So I'm just going to go through here and stitch this down. This needle is not the needle that I usually use. It's on the dull side, actually. I think some of my needles might be getting a little dull because some of this might not be 100% cotton. Okay, so I'm going to cut this off here. Save that. And then I'm going to fold this up like this. And I'm going to put a pin in it. I can't believe I cut my fingernails off today and I'm having a hard time feeling things. Isn't that odd? You'd think it would be easier. So I can take this pin out now because I don't need it. Now I'm going to turn this and I'm going to do another light one here. So let's get a thicker one. That's too thick. And you just audition things that you think you might want to put on there. Here we go. There's a good piece. So I'm going to do this one the same way. I'm going to place it on the corner here. And I'm going to put a pin on it just to hold it while I stitch it. And my thread is already on this corner here because that's where I left off. So I'm just going to come up. Just going to come up at the corner. And I'm going to do a tiny little back stitch. There we go. And I'm just going to sew all the way across. Yeah, this needle's not very sharp. I gotta change needles, I think. Otherwise I'm gonna be struggling. Why don't I do that? Put that one way over there. So I have always loved log cabin quilts, and I'm not a quilter, but if I ever did a real quilt, like a full-size quilt, I think oh yeah, this is a better needle. I think that would be the one that I would choose to do, really. I can't ever see that happening because I'm not a quilter. I have made small quilts, baby quilts, and wall hanging type quilts, but I've never made a full-size quilt, nor do I ever see myself making a full-size quilt. That's just not something that I would do. Okay, got to the corner. I'm going to cut this one off. Save that, and then I'm just going to flip this over like this. And I'll put the pin back in just to hold it for now. and we will turn. So now we're going to do a dark something. And I think I will do this piece, actually this piece. And I'm not going to do this one folding. I'm going to do this raw edge. So I'm going to place it on here like this. Actually, I'm going to place it a bit up because I want, if I placed it on the edge, that would cover up most of my red. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to just move it up a little bit like this so that I can still see my red. And this time I'm going to bring my needle down here and I'm going to stitch along here and then along the top. And there's no rhyme or reason to how I'm doing this. Sometimes I do the raw edge like this, and sometimes I do it folded. Sometimes I use lace instead of fabric. Sometimes some of the pieces on the light side could actually be quite dark. It really doesn't matter because this is wonky. Try and get that straight. So K3N did a little series called Wonky Wednesday, and most of the squares that she did were variations of log cabin, and I had no idea there was that many variations of log cabin. I was shocked and excited, but this is still my favorite orientation of log cabin. Okay, so turn. Now, I think I'm going to get a thicker piece. I'm just going to trim that properly. Try and keep it as square as you can. If I get a thicker piece, then I can do a fold. Sometimes it depends on the thickness of your fabric as to whether or not you can fold it. This one's a little thicker, so I will place it like this, and I will pin it. And I'm not going to stitch it here because I'm going to fold it over. I need that open, so I will go to the corner and just stitch it across. After a while, you sort of figure out what you're doing because however you're putting these on, whether you're folding them or you're doing raw edge, it means that you do stitch them a little bit different. Not a whole lot, but if you're folding, you don't stitch it down on this side. Anyway, when I saw her little log cabin that was hand stitched, it really called me because I have always loved stitching by hand. I used to do a lot of embroidery. Well, I still do a lot of cross stitch, but I think that was because maybe cross stitch, not cross stitch per se, but embroidery was one of the very first things that I ever did as a child. My mom, and I've told this story before. Okay, I'm going to fold this one over and I'm going to put a pin here. My mom had a group in the United Church called the Explorers, and I was one of the children in that. It was for girls. It was the prerequisite to CGIT. And you had to earn little badges and stars and things to put on your sleeve. And one of the things that we did was we would take a piece of stamped whatever, you know, those stamped things that you used to buy that you could iron on and make baby quilts. There was ducks and bears and, you know, things like that. Well, she would make a whole bunch of squares like this size, and she would stamp things, and us little girls would stitch them, and then she would put them together. Now we're going back to light now. You always know where you are by the one that's facing up. She would go and put them all together after we would stitch them all, and she would make a baby quilt, and we donated them to the women's shelters. And I was very aware of what a women's shelter was all about. Maybe some of my fellow explorer friends did not know, but I did, because my parents were foster parents. They took in foster children. Over the years, they had 36 or 38, I can't remember, foster children from infant to young adult, actually. And I saw a lot of what not homeless, but women's shelters were for, because, you know, some of the children that we had were abused, some were actually quite starved. You know, they weren't exactly your normal childhood type children. They had issues, a lot of them. So I was always very happy to, no, I'm doing backstitch and I don't know why. So I'll quit doing that. I was always very happy and thought I was doing something really special when I contributed to these blankets. And so I used to just stitch like crazy. And even at home, once I had my star, you know, she would be making extra patches to make extra blankets herself. And I would be the one who would stitch them, because I just love to stitch. So this kind of project is more exciting to me because I can do it by hand than my machine. I don't think I would make this if it was by machine. Okay, I'm going to flip this one over, or flip it up. I'm going to flip it up a little higher than maybe, well, maybe I won't. See, I'm going to hide that one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of this off. And this is what you can do. You can cheat a little bit here, because, there you go. I didn't want to lose that other piece. You can cheat because it's wonky. There's no rules in this. I'm just going to cut this little fuzzy end off here. All right, we're going to turn. I can take that bottom pin out now. Don't need it anymore. Going to turn. And I think I'm going to do a raw edged one across here. And we're going to do it in a white. What have I got for white? This is a real fuzzy piece. And when I do raw edge, I like to get a piece that's really rough looking, like this one. This is a very fine piece of cotton. Put that there. I'm going to take this pin out. I don't need it in there anymore. Place that on there and pop that pin on there. Yeah, so stitching was always something that I really loved to do. Even before I learned to knit and crochet, I did a lot of stitching. Oops. So this is really something that is very pleasurable to me. Okay, I'm going to go up the side here, because this is raw edge. I want to have it stuck down on the ends as well. And while you're doing that, you're also securing this one. So no matter which way you do it, if you do raw edge or you do the folded part, you're always securing the one below with your stitches. So you continue doing this all the way around until you get to the end. And you just have fun playing with different colors. I'm not being overly selective of what the colors. I'm actually looking more at the size of the fabric than I am at the color. As long as it's darker or lighter, I really don't care. I'm not planning any of these pieces. I'm just popping them down as they come. And I'm choosing pieces that will fit this. And if I'm going to flip it, I want it to fit widthwise as well. You can audition it first. That's a perfect piece. So I'm going to turn that this way. I'll leave that pin in there. I'm just going to pop that down on there, because this one I'm going to flip. and your needle, your thread is always on the corner that you need it to be. So you just keep going with the same thread until you run out. So this is slow stitching, and I'm kind of, maybe I'm a cynic with some of these words. You know, I get hung up on words. And when I first heard about slow stitching a few years ago, I was kind of wondering what is this slow stitching? What kind of stitching is it that is any different than any other stitching? And it's not any different than any other stitching. You're using hand sewing techniques, you're using embroidery techniques, but they're calling it slow stitching. So why? All stitching, if you're using your hands, is slow. It's not fast. Now I could have used a bigger scissors here for this. I mean, it's all slow stitch. You can't do this very fast. But I've come to realize that it's not about, well, again, I'm in two minds of this too. Slow stitching is not about the project, it's about the journey to get there. And I understand that. But on the other hand, if you weren't interested in the final results, why would you take the journey to get there? But that's just me, you know. I'm a little bit cynical when it comes to words. Okay, what are we going to put here? I think I would like to put a brown of some kind. Here's a piece that might work. I didn't bring my little jar for all my fuzzies. No, I think I'm going to use this piece because I want to flip it. I try and take some of this stuff off, and I usually have a jar sitting here. Now, to me, that's too wide for doing raw edge, so I will flip this one on this way. I keep hitting my head on this. I hope you can see anything that I'm doing here. I should really stop and check. Why don't I do that? Yeah, I think I'm doing all right. So this piece, I'm thinking, this is the wall hanging that I'm doing, and I sort of planned to do it to have 36 blocks in it. But now that I've been sort of starting to put it together, I might change my mind and do it more rectangle than square. I don't know. I'm just gonna, right now, I'm gonna do 36 blocks. And if I have blocks left over that, if I decide to change, now I'm gonna end this because it's getting kind of small, so I'm just gonna take a couple of back stitches here. If I decide to change my layout, then I'll have some blocks left over I can do stuff with. And you can do a lot of things with these blocks if you don't want to make a wall hanging or a quilt. You could make a pillow, you could make a bag. There's lots of things you can make with these. So if I have some left over, that's good. Maybe I'll make some bags. Okay, so I'm going to turn and we're back to the light color again. So I think I'm going to do a raw edge one. Find a thinner piece. Where are they when I want them? That one's too small. Oh, I should have used that before. I keep hitting it. Oh, is this one going to work? Yep, that one's going to work just fine. fuzz it out a little bit more. I'm going to take this pin out. I don't need it there. And I'm going to lay this right like that. While you're doing this, it's a good idea to kind of always keep a look at your perimeter. You don't want to build too much on one side, and like you're going to, like right now, this looks like I have more here than here, and I do. But I'm just starting the next round, and I can put this up here, which I'm going to do. And now it's sort of evening out again. You want to actually end up, I want to end up, my last piece I put on, I want it to be on this side, the last dark piece, because I started with the light, so I want to end with the dark. That's sort of how I've started all these blocks. I've started them with the white, and I'm ending with the dark, and I just want to keep doing that because I think that's going to work out better for the overall look of it. I don't suppose it really matters. I mean, if you don't want to do it that way, you don't have to. I like the look of when you put these 4 blocks together, and maybe I'll show you that right here. I'll have to bump you up a little bit though. I'm just going to move this aside for a sec. I'm going to bump you up. Okay. So when you put 4 blocks together, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. I hope so. There's many different, I'm going to stand so I can see what you're seeing. There's many different patterns that you can make with this. This is the one that I like. I'm just getting out some pieces here. So if you put it this way, which is how I'm going to be putting mine together, one row will look like this, and then the next row, if you can imagine, will be, wait a minute, gotta see what I'm doing here. Yeah, the next row will be like, no, how will it be? Well, this, I'll do it this way. Then you can do it like this. So you have, the next row will look like this. Oh, no, don't take that. Where you'll have the dark as the feature. So, you know what, you can, it's going to look different row by row just because of how you're placing them. And both ways of this, I think, are actually really gorgeous. I like the dark, and I like the white put together. And then you could also do like this. I'm just looking to see what I'm doing here. No. Dum. Not like this. You could do like this. So you have it alternating. Gosh, it looks so different when you're looking through a... And this one would go like this. So, you know, this changes the outlook of everything. So you can, there's many different scenarios when you come to put them together. But mine, I think I lost my needle. Mine is definitely going to be like this. One row is going to have the dark, the light together. And then the next row will have all the dark together. So it's going to alternate by row, which kind of leaves you with what kind of edging do you want? Do you want to have the edging like this with all the dark, or do you want the edge to be the light? So there's choices that you can make, you know, with this. It's really, it's a multi-patterned piece with just one piece. So I just wanted to show you that to you. Now, Did I lose my needle? No, I didn't. How about that? That's amazing. I thought I did. So I'm going to continue on with this. Now, when I'm all finished making my 36 blocks, then I am going to be slow stitching the tops of them with regular stitching. So I've done a little bit on this one. I haven't finished, but I've just been doing some running stitches in here. I'm going to do more stitching in here. I might do a few fancy stitches, and I might do something, for me, I think I'm going to put a cross right in the middle. But in effect, you're going to be stitching all of this. Each row is going to be hand stitched down, and then they will be joined together. So before I join them, though, I'm going to stitch each one as well, and that just adds another little element to each block. And it just kind of finishes them, brings these little edges all be down. I'll clean up all these little fluffy bits here. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying this. I am very much enjoying the process, and I am very much enjoying the project. I'm enjoying both parts of it. And I'm actually kind of hoping that I do have blocks left over so that I can make something else. Or maybe once I get this wall hanging done, maybe I'll just make some more blocks and make other things, because I just love the block. So that's how I'm doing my log cabins. I just wanted to show you. Some of you were asking questions on my little shorts that I'm doing, because I'm doing a block a day. This is my 10th day of doing a block. This will be day 10. And I'm sticking with this. I'm going to do a block a day until I've got them all done. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. This is very, very rewarding, satisfying, joyful, especially with what kind of a winter we are having here. It's just been yesterday. I have to tell you, yesterday we had a blizzard. All of Manitoba was pretty much shut down. It was horrendous. And when you hear that hospitals are having code oranges, you know it's bad. I don't know if I've worked in a hospital all my life, all my career life, and code orange is saved for disasters. Like if a plane would crash, they would make a code orange, which means that there's incoming casualties or injuries. And when a hospital has a code orange, they don't shut down the ER, but it's sort of a warning to other places, like, don't send anybody here right now. We've got enough on our plate. And oh, I got a knot. And quite a few hospitals. There was one in Winnipeg, and a couple of the smaller hospitals in outlying areas declared code oranges because there was really bad accidents. On one highway, there was they said it was 20 to 40 car pileup. Of cars, and not a great loss of life, thank goodness for that. I think there was a couple of people passed away because of these accidents, but mostly it was just, injuries. And oh, gee whiz, what's going on with this thread here? But it was bad. The visibility was nil, and I mean nil. In blowing snow, it was just horrible. We couldn't even see out our window. It was just like we were living alone, and there was nobody out there. And yet there was people who chose to get on the highways. The roads were closed. The highways were closed, and there are very steep, expensive fines if you get caught driving on a highway that they have declared closed. You better have deep pockets, because the fines are very steep. And also, if you are a business and you have told your employees that they have to come to work, which means they have to go on a closed road, that business will get fined as well. So it's not something that is taken lightly. When a road is closed, you know, you're supposed to obey it. But I guess there are a lot of people who think, you know, sometimes if you're in the city and you have to drive a little bit on a open road to get to your, like if you're on the outskirts of the city or just out of the city, and you think, oh, well, it's not bad here. And then you get out there and you can't see anything. Well, then what do? You can't really turn around because you can't see. And we've had that happen to us here. It's been perfectly fine in town. And even around town, it's perfectly fine. You get out maybe 2 or 3 miles away from town and you are in a whiteout that you can't see a darn thing. And you can't even turn around. You have to keep on going. So, but this time it wasn't like that. This was predicted. People were warned ahead of time that, you know, this was going to be happening. You were not to be on the highways if you could help it, you know. And the other thing is, you know, it puts emergency workers in danger too. They're the ones that have to go out and try and find people. And the other thing was that the temperatures were plummeting. The winds were, in some cases, they were 90 kilometers an hour. And the wind chill was horrible. So, and it was, as the day progressed, it was getting colder and colder. And so if somebody was stranded in their car in a 90-kilometer wind where the wind chill was going down to minus 40, you could freeze to death in your car. If you ran out of gas, your car ran out of gas, you could totally freeze to death. So, you know, it's not, these warnings are put there for our protection. And yeah, so it was a bad day yesterday. It's fine today. It's still a little bit windy, but no blowing snow really. It's not that windy that the snow's blowing. And these things come up really fast, you know. It's very scary. But what upset me was when I heard that the Children's Hospital had a code orange. That scared me because, you know, it's one thing as an adult to get in a car and decide you're going to go to work in a snowstorm or in a blizzard. But to pack your kids in the car with you, I don't know. I don't understand that kind of thing, really. If I had to go to work and it was a blizzard and I knew I had to take children to daycare or take them with me to the daycare, I'd stay home. I wouldn't take the chance. No job is worth that. Anyway, that was the day here. And it was all of southern Manitoba and most of central Manitoba. And it was heading, a lot of them, even up north, they were experiencing. So it was like one of the weather persons said that Manitoba was shut down yesterday. And I believe that was probably the closest of anything to fact. Ow, keep poking myself. So usually when I'm doing this, I'm sitting with some music on and a cup of tea beside me. Oops, that one's staying down. I don't have music on today because I'm yammering away. Now we're dark again. Let's see what we got here. I do like this piece. It's not quite long enough. My fabrics that I have are just all scraps of things. Some are from clothing, some are from other projects, some are tea dyed, some are not. This piece I'm holding in my hand was a little, we got a gift years ago. It was a bottle of wine in a handmade wine bag, and the wine didn't excite me near as much as the bag did. And the other thing is you could put it this way, which is nice, or you could do it this way, which I think I'm going to do. which is a little softer. I kind of like that better. So I'll do it this way and I'll fold it that way. Yeah, the bag was more exciting to me than the wine, actually. So I'm getting rid of a lot of little pieces of scraps. Small little squares and things. I've just ripped them up into strips. And I'm using them up this way. It's good stash push through this. I'm also working on my comfort cloth. That is sort of a stitch along with K3N. And I changed it completely from how I started it. I've taken a lot of the pieces off and I've completely changed it. And I will show that to you in another video later on. That one is, we have a month to finish that first piece, and I am now starting to stitch on it. I've placed everything down, I've basted everything down, and now I'm doing the hand stitching, the slow stitching. I'm doing the running stitches, and I'm going to be putting some different embroidery stitches on mine. And that too is a very, very enjoyable project. That is going to be a comfort cloth. So I'm making mine as a little quilt, a blanket of some sort. I'm using fabric that was, this first square is all fabric from people who were inspirational to me and my love of what I'm doing right now, which would be my mom and my Aunt Margaret and my great-grandma. And anybody who was an inspiration and a teacher to me as a child. I have a lot of fabric from these people, these women. And those are the fabrics that I've been choosing for that first square. I don't know what the next square is going to be. She hasn't told us, but that's what the first square was all about for me. And it's been really nice. I'm going to actually stitch their names. Oh, what did I do here? I'm going to stitch their names. What did I do? I don't know how I ended up over there. I'm going to stitch their names in that first block as well. I don't know how my thread got so far out of whack. What did I do? You tell me. No. I didn't turn. See, because I'm not paying attention. I'm going to stitch their names on that first block, and I'm going to do some pretty stitches on their fabrics, because that first block is mostly fabrics from my mom, my aunt, and my grandma. So I'm going to feature them. Dark, another dark. This will be raw edge. So you just keep on going till you get to the end. And you take your time and you enjoy the process. And I am so much enjoying this little project. Whoops, a little bit further down. I'm usually, when I'm working, I've been doing this down at the dining room table just because it's been so cold and it's been so nice just to sit. The sun shines in there and it's really toasty warm. And I bring Chip along with me because she likes to watch this stuff. So I bring her cage close by, and we, still not far enough. And we chatter and but I usually have masses of fabric. I'm the person who takes too much fabric. Here I've got just a little bit, and actually this is kind of nice because I'm just picking whatever's there and not rifling through all my pile. But yeah, this is good. So if you're thinking that you want to try one of these, just start with one square. And if you make one square and you like it, you might make more. If you don't like it, then turn it into a little coaster for your coffee cup or something like that. That's what I would do. If I made one of these and I really didn't like the process or never wanted to do it again, I would turn that little piece, just put another backing on the back of it and turn it into a coaster for my coffee cup or a hot pad or something like that. There's always use for one. You don't have to make a whole bunch. If you try it and you don't like it, then that's fine. But I knew when I saw that quilt of hers hanging on the wall that I was going to be making one. And her colors on hers are even more muted than mine. Mine are quite muted too, but hers are even more muted. Very, very muted, which I would enjoy doing one like that too, but I don't have a lot of muted fabric. I've tea-dyed a lot of this to bring the color down a little bit, but I'm happy with the way it's turning out, because really when it's all done, it doesn't look bright, does it? There are some bright colors like this in here. This is quite bright. There's purple in here, which is not my color at all. There's quite bright blue. But when you get the whole piece done, it doesn't look really bright. So that's how I do my squares. I'm going to continue on with this, and I'm going to do the short on day 10 and 11 on Monday. So I will do I'll add 2 blocks on Monday. I'm not doing any shorts because I'm doing this longer video today. So thank you for watching, and give it a try. If you're a stitcher, give it a try. It's totally fun. And it's fun because you don't have to do it the traditional way. Just lay your cloth down and stitch it down and see what happens. It's pretty. It's really pretty. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was nice to have you along. I had somebody to talk to, and sometimes when I'm making videos like that, it feels like you're right there with me. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again in about a week's time with some more something. Have a good week, everybody. Bye for now.